Hello everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another one of our weekly Ascendance of a Bookworm Season 3 discussion videos. Today we're here to talk all about Episode 3. Before we get into that though, let's see if we can't get this video to 100 likes before the end of the day. I believe in you. I bet you can do it. But with that said, go ahead and throw this video in another tab, get yourself a warm cup of tea, get nice and cozy, and let's talk about Ascendance of a Bookworm Season 3, Episode 5. So, this episode kind of continues the trend from last week and the week prior, where essentially we're building up to the fact that Mine and the family are likely going to be parting ways soon. We do get to see the birth of Mine's new baby brother, Camille, but we don't really, obviously, he's a baby, so we don't know much about him yet. We just know that he cries because he's a baby. But we do learn that, the community has, an interesting way of handling this, is that, as soon as somebody goes into labor in the neighborhood, pretty much all the women in said neighborhood all gather together to help, and then all the men start plucking chickens for, the naming ceremony and stuff like that. So basically, when somebody new is coming into the neighborhood, everybody bands together and helps out. And I really like that. Again, it's an element of the show that I think is kind of underrated, and that's the background characters and the general lore of the show. It's something that I think is probably part of the reason why I don't crazy like the church stuff much, and I'm not super into the noble thing much, is because I just find the way that the lower class in this world operates to be way more interesting than the church how the church operates versus how the nobles operates. And then again, in comparison to the lower class, where Mine starts the adventure, it's just more fun to me. It's more interesting, and it's I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's one of my more favorite elements of the show is just the general world building, because I think they do such a phenomenal job of fleshing the world out. I do wish that we spent more time just kind of immersed in it. It is the one thing about the show that has been bugging me this season, and it's my only real complaint for this season, is that things are moving at a fast pace, I should say. Again, I respect the fast pace, as I said last week, because it enables us to keep the story moving at a good clip. Nothing's really we're not really stalling for time or anything like that. We're moving at a good pace, and I respect it. But at the same time, I do kind of wish that we had more time to simmer with these characters. Again, as I said last week, having boring guy whose name is escaping me meet say Gunther, that would have been a really cool thing, I'm trying to remember his name. Mine's bodyguard. Having him meet Gunther would have been great, right? Because we would have had this moment where Gunther is sort of sizing this dude up and seeing if he has what it takes to take care of Mine while he's not around, to protect her from the dangers that she's now facing. And having Gunther give that man his blessing to continue to guard Mine would have been a really sick thing to see on screen, because Gunther is my third favorite character in the show. My top 3 favorites are Benno, Lutz, Gunther, and then after that I'd say Otto and maybe Thule, right? After that, either Thule or maybe Sly, maybe Sylvester after that. Yeah, Sylvester is definitely the one that of the new cast, I think he's the one I like the most. You guys know I'm not a huge fan of Ferdinand. I'm not a big Ferdy guy. I think Ferdy's kind of obnoxious at times. He's getting better, right? But I do think he's not high on my list of favorites. He might break the top 10 only because there's not a whole lot of characters that are really top 10 material in the show. I do think that when it comes to the church, the only character that I like is Sylvester and Gill. Right, Gill is okay. I don't mind Gill much. Gill's okay. The other characters at the church are either just kind of boring, like Fran or Rosina or any of those characters. They're not bad. They're just kind of boring. And then you have characters like Delia, who is still backstabbing Mine, even though they're supposedly friends now. And there's the whole general creepiness with Delia trying to become a mistress to some noble, and was very friggin' uncomfortable. And again, people are gonna be like, in this time period. Different world, different rules. You can make up whatever you want. It's your own world. God damn. Like, it's a fantasy world. You can make up whatever the hell you want. But of course, people are gonna be like, in this time period. It's not our time period. It's not, like, I get that it's mimicking certain elements of, like, the medieval age and stuff like that. But it's not our world, so it doesn't have to abide by our world's rules. As the show points out in this episode, that just because that happened in my world doesn't mean it's going to happen here. Show should have took its own advice. Didn't have to make shit creepy for no reason. But, no, it's creepy. And there's a lot of things that happen in this show that I do find icky, right? In the same way I found it icky in Mushoku Tensei. I find it weird that people would give Bookworm a pass and then, like, be like, Rudy's a creep and Rudy's gross, but, like, you know, mine just actively perved on Lutz for most of seasons 1 and 2, but nobody said shit, and in fact, when I pointed it out, people got mad at me. It's part of the reason why I don't like mine. I don't like mine because she's selfish. I don't like mine because she's really weird towards Lutz and certain other characters, even, like, kind of hinting that she might be into Sylvester when he's, like, a grown-ass man. Like when she's like, Sylvester-sama, like blushing, I'm like, you're a child. What are you doing? Like, just, I don't like it. You're in a kid's body and you're a full-ass adult. You know what I mean? Like, you should not be thinking anything romantic at all. You are in a circumstance where that's just not an option. So yeah, and I just don't like her because she's selfish. Like, I don't like the way she behaves. It's nice to see her start to grow, right? Like, mine says, like, I realized because of you that I was so focused on books that I neglected my current family, and I want to spend as much time with them as I can. And I respect that, right? I respect that she is now aware that her weird lust for books was distracting. And part of the, honestly, it was the biggest hiccup with season 1 was that I couldn't stand mine. But I was willing to give the show the benefit of the doubt because there's a lot of shows where I don't really like the main character off the pop, right? Like Subaru and ReZero as an example. It took me a few times to get into ReZero because I just found Subaru insufferable. But the point of ReZero is that Subaru's supposed to be unsufferable. You're supposed to, like, get to know him over time and see him grow and evolve. Whereas with Bookworm, you're supposed to find mine, like, relatable and sweet, and I'm not gonna lie, if you find mine relatable, I'm gonna be very uncomfy around you. Just because she's, like, I'm gonna be, not uncomfy, but wary of you. Because it's like, she's a selfish brat. Like, and she continues to be a selfish brat. Because when Ferdinand points out, like, you know, you should really just be adopted by cars, you're gonna put your family in danger. And mine's like, I want to spend as much time with them as I can. And I'm like, if they die, I swear to G, I swear to G, I swear to God, swear to me mum, I will lose my shit. I will be screaming into the mic if anything happens to Gunther or Thule or anybody, right? Like, I will be so mad. Right, because, like, I feel like the show is setting it up in that direction. Like, we know now that, like, why a lot of the nobles are, like, against her, especially with the printing press thing. Like, people are already pressed in regards to mine, but then you add in the printing press, and, yeah, like, that would rightfully piss off a lot of nobles. And mine, the thing is, like, on this I agreed with mine, where mine was like, oh, but, like, the printing press is ultimately a good thing. And I'm like, it is. But you have to understand that there's going to come job losses with this. There's going to come strife with this, political tension with this. Once people have access to books and are able to read, like, there's going to be strife that comes with it. I do agree that ultimately that strife is worth it because having everyone be educated and knowledgeable is ultimately only a good thing. But there's going to be a lot of shit that comes out because of that. But maybe this world will be different. Like mine points out, like, maybe this world might be different. Ferdinand seems to mostly believe that, but he's still hesitant. And for me, I think it's again, like, watching the episode, I was like, anytime Lutz was there, I was like, yeah! Seeing Benno again made me go like, yeah! And Sylvester, I was like, yeah! But a lot of the other stuff, I was like, nah. And you guys know how I felt about season 2, right? Where it was, like, mostly conversations between Ferdy and mine in the like library looking room, and like the hidden room, and just lots of like game playing between characters you don't super care about. At least I didn't. Now, mind you, again, like, I grew to be mostly indifferent towards a lot of the characters. I didn't hate them as much as I did at the beginning of Season 2. Like, Fran, I don't hate anymore. I just kind of find Fran a little bit boring. Ferdy, same thing. Like, I don't hate Ferdy. In fact, sometimes he's kind of fun, but it's very few and far between. For the most part, I'm sort of like, I don't really have strong feelings on Ferdinand one way or the other. I hate the head priest still. I think he's... Or not head priest, the... whatever priest. The main one, like, who looks like evil Santa Claus. Still don't like that guy. Obviously, you're not supposed to. Don't like his attendant. Don't like Delia. Really don't like Delia, actually. I find that brat annoying. And yeah, Rosina and the others are just kind of there. Like, I hate saying it like that, but a lot of, like, the church characters, they're just kind of there. And they've had and I'm sure people would be like, yeah, well, you're biased towards the Season 1 characters because we've known them longer. The thing is, we've known these characters now for about a season and a third, right? So that's more than enough time to grow. And I can point to Gill and say Gill grew in that time. Gill's a different character to who he was in the beginning, and I like Gill now. The other characters, they did grow, but I just don't personally like them very much. I think they're kind of boring. Honestly, the church as a setting is just kind of boring. And every time we get to go back, I'm like, yay! Like, I was so happy when we got to go back. Like, so happy when we got to go back to, like, the lower class area, because I was like, yes! Like, every time they go there, it feels like Mindset. It's a safer place. Like, it feels like going home, right? So going there, it's like, oh, yay! Right? Like, I almost wanted to go, like, running through the woods again, right? Like, going to, like, collect sticks and stuff like mine and Lutz used to do, right? Like, it'd be fun to go back to, like, the good old days of that. But obviously, at this point, there's so much that has happened, like, that's not really gonna be a thing. Or, like, go visit Benno, you know? Go visit Benno and Mark and see what everybody's up to and stuff like that. Like, it was nice to see like, the house again, because it just feels so homey, even though it's, like, it feels warm and cozy and inviting, even though it's this, like, sort of squalor district, right? Even though it's this sort of, like, bad area, it's still, there's a warmness to Mine's home that it's nice to go back, right? And it's nice to see these characters again, like Gunther, and we don't see Otto, but you know he's around, and Lutz's brothers and family and stuff like that. Like, it's, to me, that's when the show was at its best, is when we were hanging out with those characters in particular. And the best parts of Season 2 was when those characters came back and got to take front stage, or center stage, I should say. And it's something that I hope that this season does again. The season's been very focused on Karstedt, who I forgot to mention Karstedt. Karstedt's also a top 5 character. Karstedt's super freaking cool. I like Karstedt a lot. That's why I am more hopeful and at least more intrigued for this season than I was for Season 2. Because Sylvester and Karstedt are very cool characters, and I want to know more about those two, right? So I'm definitely, like, on board with Karstedt and Sylvester, because I think they're very interesting characters. And I just kind of want to see more about them. I hope that Mine's bodyguard gets more interesting. Because he's kind of, like, I don't think he's a bad character. He's just, again, same thing with Fran, right? I don't think Fran's a bad character. I don't think any of the characters are really bad. I don't think we have, like that there's any poor writing, you know what I mean? Like, it's mostly just characters who I personally am not vibing with. I don't think the writing's bad. I just think it's Season 2 was something that I personally didn't vibe with, because I didn't care about the characters, so obviously I didn't care about what they were going through. But I know a lot of people who enjoyed Season 2. I know a lot of people who didn't, too, but I did. I didn't enjoy it, but I do know a lot of people who did have a good time with Season 2. I just wasn't one of them. You know, so it's, I will say, like, Season 3, it's part of the reason why I'm a little bit more optimistic, because Season 3 is leaning more into the Nobles thing. Again, I'm not crazy into the Nobles thing, but I am way more into it than I was to the church stuff. Like, I would say I'm more interested in the lower class stuff, but if I can't have that, I'd rather have the noble stuff than the church stuff. The church stuff is so boring. So having, like, even though Sylvester is technically part of, like, the church, like, setting, he also feels more sort of incorporated into the noble setting based off, like, where this season is going. And Karstedt, like I said, is just cool. If mine does get adopted over to Karstedt, and we don't really get to hang out as much with, like, Gunther and them, I'll be pretty disappointed. I hope that's not what happens. But I do think that if that were to happen, that I think Cars as a character, and I'm gonna call him Cars because it's fun, because it makes me think of JoJo's. And technically Dio is in the show anyway. Cars is, if he does adopt mine, I would at least be curious to see, like, which direction they take the show in and stuff like that. But generally speaking, I did think that this was a solid episode. If not a little bit, maybe a little wary with, like, the fact that we stuck around the church so much and that we're setting up more stuff with the church and more creepy stuff with the church on top of that. I just want to stay with Gunther and everybody. I just want to stay, like, in that area. I just want to stay in, like, the lower class area because it's more fun, it's more interesting. I just like these characters day to day. I don't really want or care about what's happening at the church. But that's just me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Until next time, outro. And that's going to do it for today's discussion, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for listening. As always, I want to give a big thank you to the lovely people who help support us over on Patreon. And if you too would like to have your name scrolling past the screen, then be sure to check out that Patreon link in the description. And of course, a big thank you has to go to Asaki VT, Elizabeth Just Elizabeth, JCran23, Jeremy P, Matt87 Eagle, Shadow Creative, Shiorins, Stephen G, Stevie W, Trap Master, Trevor W, and Tristan G. Thank you all so much for your continued support. It means the world to me. Thank you so much. Check me out over on Twitch, on Twitter, all the fun stuff. Links to everything are in the first link in the description. Thank you so much for watching / listening, and I will see you in the next one.